That was fantastic. I first got involved with Educate Plus in 2014 when I spoke at the International Conference in Melbourne. And I joined Educate Plus 3 years ago. But this year I've been to the Advancement Practitioner Training in Adelaide. I was at the Victorian Summit. I was at the Sydney Summit. I've been at various webinars, and of course now I'm here in Perth, so that's super exciting, and I've got the nice suntan to show for it as well. So when the description was put out for what I'm going to cover today, there is a lot here. So it's kind of going to be death by PowerPoint when you get back to your desk, right? So we're not going to be able to go into all of the bits and pieces here because there's just too much information. So I want you to try and just get an understanding of what I'm getting at. So I don't expect you to know all the infinite details for this presentation. Oh, that's funny. All the little links have come up. I'm a member of Golden Key International Honours Society, which is the top 15% of undergrads, Melbourne Press Club, Career Development Association Australia, Australian Society of Authors, Writers Victoria, and of course Educate Plus. My first website went online in 2001, Newcomers Network, and I'm member number 77832 on LinkedIn, so one of the first 80,000 people in the world on the platform. It was started in May 2003, and if you would like to download my books, and feel free to share any of this with anyone you like, any other schools, any other friends, whatever, more than welcome for you to share it. But all the books are on ResearchGate. So I have them publicly available. So if you want the step-by-step guide of how to do your LinkedIn, it's the 5th book, LinkedIn for Me and My Career or Business. The last 2 books were entered in the Australian Career Book Award and were finalists. And The Gigsters is about me not having had a real job since 1994. So my career started 6 days after my last year 12 exam at Westpac in Adelaide, and I worked in the bank for 11 years, moved to Melbourne, got a job, found out I was pregnant, got sacked, was angry for 6.5 years, and anyway, I ended up doing all of this other stuff because of that. So how cool is that? So my presenter details are on there, but all of the presentations I've done for Educate Plus are on my website as well. So if you want to go back and check the history, they're all there free, you don't have to log in, and you can also see some of the schools I've worked with under the clients page. I also represent Peter Buckingham from Spectrum Analysis, so if you've got any mapping questions you want to ask me while I'm here, feel free to do that. And I make myself accountable, so every time I do a presentation, I put up my numbers of my social media, and I encourage you at your schools and universities to always, every time you've got a function, tell people to follow you on social media. You know, you've got a captive audience, so I encourage you to do that. And also, do it for Educate Plus as well. Like, why wouldn't you make sure that you're following Educate Plus on all of the channels? So you can see the numbers and how they've changed over, you know, the last 2 years. And unfortunately, most schools have had their Google reviews turned off, and so Educate Plus doesn't have a Google page, but they do still have the opportunity to write reviews on the Educate Plus Facebook page. So if you've liked what's happened today and you would love to, you know, champion Educate Plus from Western Australia, why not add a Facebook review as well? So I'm going to explain how to showcase your Educate Plus membership for building both your personal brand as well as your institutional brand, and then show you how some of the LinkedIn tools can be used to support your activities as advancement or individual professionals. That's me in Sydney recently. So these are the steps. This is why I said it's like death by PowerPoint. There is no way, and of course we're not logged in and I can't show you all the things. Is there anyone here who does not have a LinkedIn profile at the moment? Okay, cool, excellent. All right, so if you're a member of Educate Plus, you may not be aware that they now have a community portal. So when you become a paid member, you can log in, and this is the website, and you can see there's the login, and then you end up with your dashboard. So I want you to make sure, if you paid membership, you might as well fill in your details, you know, so obviously that's your first step. And what you'll see is there's a little login screen, and then you click on My Profile, and then you fill it in, and right down the bottom, you can put your brand new photo you've got today and your little blurb so people can understand what it is you do, and if they want to have a chat to you about what you do, all that information is in the Educate Plus community portal. It's a very new feature on the Educate Plus website. Now, obviously, I'm going to suggest you follow Educate Plus on LinkedIn, and when you start following a company, you can click the notification bell and choose all posts, and that way you're more likely to see the Educate Plus content in your newsfeed. So that's going to help that happen for you. And I found a group on LinkedIn called the WA chapter of Educate Plus, created by Danielle Hargrove. It's only got one member in it, so I think she's probably very lonely there. So if you'd like to join that little group I found on LinkedIn, I think groups are a waste of time, to be perfectly honest. It's probably not the most important thing you're going to learn from today, but I did find it in my research. So if you want to join Danielle and just have little private chats, feel free to join that group. Now, if you really love Educate Plus, you woke up this morning, you say, I'm a card-carrying member of Educate Plus and I'd like to tell the world about it. You could put a little banner on the back end of your LinkedIn profile saying that you're a professional member. So every time somebody looks at your LinkedIn profile, they see you're a member. Most of us would probably put our school, university, employer, business brand, whatever. If it's your PACE leadership, you put the logo on the top right-hand side, because when your face slides into the middle of the screen, you don't want to miss the logo. So all of your staff can be invited, it's not obligatory, to put a banner on their LinkedIn profile showcasing your educational provider. And the size of the image is there as well. So under contact information, you can add 3 websites. So you might, if you've got your own name website, and if you're into leadership, you kind of need your own name website, or at least your own page on your business website. You can pop that in, and because I believe all future leaders are going to need to have their own name website. Sorry folks, I know that's a bit of a killjoy thing, because most of us have difficulty even having a LinkedIn profile, but having your own name website. Don't feel too guilty though if you don't have one just yet, because my LinkedIn profile was 2003 and SueEllson.com was not till 2012. So it took me 9 years to get with the program. Hopefully it doesn't take you all 9 years, but that's where I see the world of the internet going, because AI scrapes websites, doesn't scrape social media content. So we've got to remember we're moving into the world of AI. So if we want our story to be found, it needs to be on websites. So you can put a link to Educate Plus in one of those 3 websites you can add to your LinkedIn profile, but please visit the website and copy paste it in, okay? You don't type it in manually, because you could make a boo-boo and it not work. Now, in the About section, the summary, there's a lot of people who love to know all about your qualifications. And you may have realised there's an education section on LinkedIn, but why not put your post-nominals as a member of Educate Plus after your name as well? So again, that helps promote the Educate Plus brand. And if everybody here does it in West Australia, you can show up the rest of Australia, because I guarantee you, I haven't done this presentation before, so you can all be the standout members of Educate Plus. You can see here I've got my email address and phone number. I do not recommend that for the principal. Obviously, we do not want cranky parents and disgruntled students contacting the principal. What you would do for the principal is you would link to the contact page of the school website, so all the normal channels will be followed. But if you're in consulting like me, then obviously you want to have that. You can also see here the top skills. You can add 5 top skills. So it's a skills-based platform, so you can pop those in there. Now, the next section you could profile your Educate Plus membership is in the featured links section. So a bit underneath your photo and your headline, there's this featured link. So I just copy-pasted the link to the WA chapter page of the Educate Plus website. So this way, particularly if you're on the committee, you want to say, look, I'm proud to be a member of the committee and I want to showcase that on my LinkedIn profile. So you can pop it in that WA chapter spot. That's the link, and I created the image, this little Educate Plus WA chapter. I just got Canva and just made it up so it looked lovely, because otherwise we ended up with a PhotoWorks logo, and I didn't want to promote PhotoWorks you know, when I'm trying to promote Educate Plus. I just pop that little image in there. The next one is in the licenses and certification section. You can add in your membership of Educate Plus, and again, I've provided a link to the Educate Plus website. So basically, everywhere everybody looks on your LinkedIn profile, they're going to see that you're a member of the organisation. And even though you've entered it in licenses and certifications, you can also enter it lower down in the organisation section. So there's two sections there. Are you realising how much homework you've got? That's why I said, you know, follow the PowerPoint, you know, just go through the slides. Now, some of you, are any of you consultants to the industry rather than in schools? Oh well, this is for you, Kelly. You can add a providing services page on your LinkedIn profile, and if you do that, you can add links, and so you can see I've put the link to my presenter page on the Educate Plus website in there, and then that puts up a little feature as well. And then you could announce it in your news feed. I am a professional member. So I didn't have one of those announcements. So last week I made up this little post and it's done really well. So thank you to all the people from Western Australia who've liked the post. It's actually done well. And so if you click that link, you'll be able to see how well it's done. And again, there's the reminder there if you want to check out those other presentations. So that's the, oh yes, and then also, if you have got your own name website, you obviously somewhere on your About page, you would say you're a member of Educate Plus. And I've also got a media kit. I was flying from Melbourne to Perth yesterday morning. As soon as I opened my phone on the tarmac, Channel 9 said, can you appear on Today Extra today? And so at 6:20 a.m, I was at the Channel 9 studios this morning, and I was on air at 9:50 a.m, and I'll be sharing that story. That was my 21st appearance on the Today Extra program. So yeah, so I keep a record of everything on my website. So that's your 12-point plan of how to showcase your Educate Plus membership on LinkedIn. And the benefit of doing that is it's going to, you know, help everyone understand what Educate Plus is all about. Because a lot of the normal society have no idea what an advancement professional is. So because I've been involved in professional associations for many years, I like to help the members promote the professional association they're a part of. So obviously, I'd suggest that today I'm going to show you how to connect with one another using the LinkedIn app, but if you want to connect with some more people, you can visit the page on the Educate Plus website and look at all the chapter committee members and invite them all to connect with you as well. And also, if you've had a role with Educate Plus, either voluntarily or professional, you could also add that to your LinkedIn profile. So now we're going to move away from just doing Educate Plus, and we're going to talk about your personal brand. And obviously, these are the sorts of things we're going to talk about. So the photograph. And who's already had their photo taken? Oh, only a few, okay. This photo here of John is one of my favourites. He's over 80. Does he look it? What does that photo convey about John? What does he look like? Friendly, energetic, enthusiastic, you know, that's what we've got to portray with your photo. So when you go out there and you're standing in front of the camera feeling like a deer in headlights, you just got to say, I'm here and I'm energetic and I'm enthusiastic. And we've got to convey that in a photo. It's only two-dimensional, so we've really got to make the effort with that. This photo here of Liz, I also love because she's wearing a high neck garment. And what that does is it frames your face. Whereas if you look at this guy, we end up looking at his neck instead of at his eyes. So this is why, you know, this is a better photo. This guy, we can tell what he does. This is Linda, the lovely artist, who didn't really want a photo on LinkedIn. So we don't get the sunglasses. This guy from LinkedIn doesn't know what he's doing. First of all, the logo, you can't even see it. And secondly, all I can see is his jacket. I cannot see his face, so this is not a good photo. This guy, actually got guitar gigs out of his LinkedIn photo. Keith is obviously a video camera guy. Luz is in Adelaide. I just love that photo. It's really captured her essence. You just feel like you want to talk to her, you know, it's just really lovely. And then we've got Mona Lisa up the top there. You know, we don't really know whether he's interested or not. You know, it's a little bit confusing. I'm not a fan of that one. But, you know, I just want to give this to you as a bit of an exercise in trying to understand. So when I went to a professional photographer, it took 70 clicks before he took a photo I liked. Now, most of us, we take a photo and we take another one and another one, and they're all shit, and I'm not changing my LinkedIn photo. Right? That's what happens. So if a professional photographer took 70 shots before I found one I liked, then you too can take 70 shots until you get one you like, okay? But energy and enthusiasm and, you know, all of those things, not black and white, because in Asian cultures you're considered to be dead because they're only put on gravestones, so we wouldn't do the guitar guy in black and white there. And if you take the photo indoors and think of something really exciting, like the latest concert you went to or something, your pupils will dilate, and that will also give you an appearance of more energy and enthusiasm. Ideally, less than 3 years old. My photo was taken in September last year before I stopped dyeing my hair, and so I'm now just waiting for the rest of it to come out, and then I'll be getting a new photo myself and changing it everywhere. And then there's this little video here about, is it time to update your LinkedIn profile photo? All right, now the headline. This is what's directly underneath your name, and this is the way for you to say who you are. So I was talking to Hayden, and he's the deputy principal of a residential college, and it turns out that he gets a lot of spam because he says he's the deputy principal. And most service providers know that the principal doesn't make the financial decisions, the deputy principal does. So, you know, you're likely to cop all the spam and the stuff. So I've suggested to Hayden, I hope that's okay to say this, Hayden, yeah, that he change it to deputy principal residential college. So then if somebody looks at it, they'll say, oh, hang on a minute, you know, the residential college is not going to be interested in this software as a service for enrolments, you know, because they just sleep there. You know, they're not educated for years or whatever. So yeah, you can change it around. So this is particularly if you're also looking for your next job or promotion, you want to be found in search results. So you can see my formula here is title or label, and we all know you should label jars, not people. But if you meet me at a networking event, say, oh, Sue, what do you do? I'll say, I'm an independent LinkedIn specialist, because that's what's going to appear in all the search results and all the news feed, everything. And then I've got all these keywords. So now I can be found for LinkedIn trainer, LinkedIn mentor, LinkedIn speaker. I can be found for all of those different things. So this is why you don't just put your job title in there. You put in these extra keywords, and then you can create that aligned position or attract the next good position. If you want to know where to find your keywords, you can look at job descriptions, job advertisements. Anybody here doing careers with students? No? But myfuture.edu, oh, you want to ask for a pay rise. Log into this website, create a free account, and if the Western Australian postcode doesn't work, just put in a Victorian one and you'll get it for free. But My Future gives you a description of the job, what's involved, the salary ranges, and the predictions of how many people are going to be doing this in the future. So it's really good. So if you want to say, I'm entitled to a pay rise, you can say, My Future says I should be, you know, in this pay bracket. So that could be helpful to you. And then there's, you can look at source code, it's a bit technical. All right. So the next thing you want to do on your LinkedIn profile, and this is the part that can take a lot of time, but if you're going for that next promotion, you kind of got to have this story somewhere on your LinkedIn profile. And this is what you're doing. So as I said before, I worked for Peter Buckingham, spectrum analysis, and most people are terrible, particularly if they grew up in Australia, of writing achievements. Would you all agree? Nobody wants to say what they've done. So, unlike financial advice, past behaviour is a predictor of future performance. Because if you've been a principal in the past, there's a pretty good chance you could be a principal again in the future if you wanted to do that. So what your achievements are is anything you did above what you were expected to do. So, you know, you might have been told I've got to increase enrolments by 10%, but you increased it by 15. So you could say, achieved my KPI of increasing enrolments plus 5%. And that is an achievement. There's nothing wrong with saying that. That's fantastic news. But you can also add in anything that was over and above. You initiated a new enrolments plan, or you developed a new alumni program for people living overseas, or, you know, whatever. Anything you initiated, instigated, were selected for, whatever. That is not bragging. If you said, I'm the best alumni professional this school has ever seen, then that's going to be, you know, not so kosher in Australia. So just make sure you add in those achievements. Obviously, you don't want to say, I saved the school $24,000 a year. That's private information for the school only. But you might say, I've reduced expenses by 10%. And then nobody knows, you know, what that was. But it is an achievement. And list them in priority order. And then how to write and add achievements. There's that extra link there. You can see I've still got my skills in here. So we've added those. And we've added links to some videos. So when you add links and that extra stuff, what you're doing is moving from digital literacy, I have a LinkedIn profile, to digital competency, I am using all the bells and whistles of LinkedIn, and I'm going to attract more interest, aligned interest with my LinkedIn profile. Then you list all your tasks. So this is, I suggest to people, particularly because I do a lot of work with people in careers, that you allocate 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, because it's probably going to take, you know, 10 hours to do all of this updating for every role you've done. But you write them in present tense, even if they were a past job. So as we age, a lot of people think, oh, they're too old, they don't know what they're doing, and that's what they used to do. But if you write it in the present tense, you now become a guru. So you can do this, you can do that, so you can do something else. And so it's this lovely catalogue of all the things you can do. So one of the things in my banking career I used to do is pick up frauds. So 2 years ago, a recruiter contacted me and said, Sue, would you like to work for the National Disability Insurance Agency? In other words, we've got lots of fraud in the NDIA, as if we didn't know that. Yeah, it was all because I wrote that one word on my LinkedIn profile that I got that opportunity. So yeah, talk to those stories, and then of course, this article here is called LinkedIn for Women, because I did a presentation to Camberwell Girls School and I wanted to write an article specifically about LinkedIn for women, but it's really LinkedIn for anyone. Now, there are all these other sections you can fill in on LinkedIn as well. So the only ones I haven't done are patents, because I don't have a patent, and I haven't used career break. I've written when I was looking after my children slightly differently. So start thinking of your questions, because I'm signed into Stephen's account and I can show you some other things if you've got questions. But you could add this professional development that you're doing today as a course, LinkedIn for Advancement Professionals, and just choose it as a course and pop it on your LinkedIn profile. Of course, the easiest one to fill in is languages. And you might say, what's the point? Of course, I'm in Australia, people would assume I speak English. But you come up in more search results if you filled in more boxes. So that's the benefit of just, you know, filling in that one. Now, because it's a skills-based platform, so when LinkedIn first came out, online resume, jobs board, that was it. But now it's a networking tool, it's a publishing tool, all sorts of other things you can do. So for skills, if you get votes for those, that's good. So when you get back to your desk, I want you to think of all your favourite friends at work and connect with them on LinkedIn and vote for their skills. Oh, that's nice, they went to that PD and now they're being nice to me on LinkedIn, and it will send them a notification. So, you know, make it a habit every so often. As soon as you connect with someone that you've seen their skills, give them some votes, and apparently you get sort of more brownie points or value if you've worked with a person, or they also have votes for those same skills. So yeah, that's the way that goes. Now, one of my clients I was working with was a lawyer, and he was a really interesting guy. And I was showing him this LinkedIn profile, and this LinkedIn profile had 160 recommendations that the person had received and 0 that they had given. And so most of us in the room would think, well, that's a pretty selfish kind of person to receive 160 recommendations and not give anybody else one. Now, I would hire this lawyer based on this question he said, or this statement he made. Well, clearly no one asked. And if you think about it, that's perfect logic. If you don't ask someone to write a recommendation, why would they give you one? You know, they weren't asked. Did anybody wake up this morning and say, it's the 20th of November and I'd like to write a recommendation for someone on LinkedIn? Nobody? No, I didn't think so. So yeah, so think about who can you write and try and get a similar number both given and received. I recommend 6 of each. Okay. Now, because it is a network, you want to add as many people to your network as possible, because there is no such thing as job security. You know, I've been lost gigs many, many times over. So, as I said earlier, try and connect with 3 people. And you can do this on the app by pressing in the search box, then the little squares on the top right, and that will bring up your own little QR code. Now, this is a fantastic thing to do at school events, because it provides a little icebreaker activity for people to go around and connect with one another. You know, alumni events is a good one, parent-teacher nights, you know, you can go around and connect. Then you press, when the person's profile appears on the screen, there'll be a big blue button and 3 dots. You choose personalised invite, nice to meet you at Educate Plus, and then you can send it off. And then if they forget your name, they can check the messages and see the words Educate Plus and remember that. So from now on, they're my 3 favourite words, 3 people at every event, and then particularly for Kelly, anyone who emails, phone calls, text messages, DMs, she's going to invite them to connect, because, you know, that's what's going to help. Now, my daughter was working in the same company for 5 years, and she'd sort of got to maximum capacity in this role. And I said, before you leave, you've got to connect with all the people you've worked with in that organisation and any of the suppliers and whatever. And so she went for another job and she got it. And they told her it was business development, and it turned out to be sales. So she lasted 2 weeks after working for 5 years in a job. And so her fiance, now husband, said, all right, you should start your own business. And of course I agreed. And so she did it. And I thought, full-time work, new business. This is not going to be suitable for Carmen. She's a driver or analyzer, one of those. She's definitely not just the big vision person. And if she was, she would go nuts because she's got not enough to do. So I said, all right, I'm going to suggest that you get a job on Sidekicker, which is an online platform. You can get a little gig. So she's got this job at Oxford University Press, and then a new job, and she kept working there. They loved her. It was just a casual job. And then a 4-day-a-week job came up, and she got that. And so she does her business on the other day. And now we're 12 months after she left the company, and all the clients she used to support in the old company are not happy because things are not going well there because she's not there running the show. So they're reaching out to her on LinkedIn, and she's got this work. So you just never know when that connection is going to come back to you. And I got a gig recently. I met this woman at an AmCham lunch 8 years ago. And then I went through a recruitment process and got the job at the beginning of this year. So you just never know when you connect with people, how it can lead to something else. So that's my QR code. If you're not quick enough to get your phone out, I'll put it up at the end as well. Now, once you've filled in your LinkedIn profile in all its detail, and I was talking to Kelly about this before, I've only worked with one principal who's been realise the value of LinkedIn and let me help her work on her LinkedIn profile. But once you've got a LinkedIn profile, if you want to maintain interest, and the reason I wanted to work with the principal is if a person sends out content on LinkedIn, that goes further than if the school does. So if you're trying to be in marketing for your school and the principal's not doing anything, that's going to be a tough, thing. So this is why I talk about it. So if the principal doesn't want to start writing stuff, they can start reacting. So there's thumbs up, celebrate, support, love, insightful, or funny. And then if you start writing comments, you'll see that some comments now are getting impressions as well. So what LinkedIn wants is a conversation. That's what it's all about now. So there's a lot more happening. And in all my years online, I've only ever had one incident which has been a problem, because I am friendly, professional, and solution focused. I'm not personal, I'm not here's a shot of me in Perth in my swimming costume at Cottesloe Beach, you know, that's not me, right? I'm not doing that. Well, it wouldn't be a good photo anyway, but we won't go there. So, anyway, this person put a comment on LinkedIn which was inappropriate. So I said, I will message you directly. No, not sexually inappropriate, but it's just weird. So I said, I'll message you directly. And so when I messaged this guy, I took a screenshot. I messaged this guy and he said, he threatened my children. So of course I rang the police and said this, oh yeah, we know the guy, yeah, we'll do a welfare check. And I thought, why are you telling me this? But anyway, so they went round and did a welfare check. And I knew what was going on because this guy was ex-military and I could tell he was obviously, you know, there was some psychological issue going on. And then a couple of days later, he contacted me, thanks for calling the police, I knew you would. And so I chipped in about that and I said, well, it's not appropriate to do it that way, to threaten someone's children. And I suggest that you get involved in voluntary work and in your local community, because he lived in this beautiful part of South Australia. And he said, yes, I was very happy when I was doing that, and I never heard from him again. But what I'm saying to you is, if, you know, crisis comms is your thing at your school, take screenshots, because sometimes these agitators will delete the content after they've done it. So have that in place. And like when I was in the bank, we had hold-up training, because when there used to be cash in branches, you know, we worried about hold-ups. We always just have a procedure in place if something goes wrong. So it's the same kind of thing here. And here's some ways to improve your engagement. Now, the next thing is, you don't want to post and ghost on LinkedIn, because if you do, not much is going to happen. And so this particular link here is, I did a poll. Has anyone else done a poll on LinkedIn? You can do a one question thing. Did you enjoy our school open day? You know, could be the poll, and you could get some votes for it. But what I did, this was a poll, because does anybody know what the average retirement age in Australia is, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics? 60 something? Any other numbers? Over 60? Guess what? It's 56.3. Doesn't that make us feel all slightly ill? So, what concerned me is when I ran this poll, I said to you, if you're between the ages of 55 and 70, what are you doing now? So that's my question, and I gave them the answers. And so once I got all the survey results from that one question poll on LinkedIn, I put it into a PowerPoint presentation, and then I uploaded it. What you can do with PowerPoint is you can save it to PDF. So then I uploaded this PDF. So you can see I've got the little arrow here on the top right, and so people can click through. It's like a slideshow, and also they can download it. And that was, you know, some more data on the average age of retirement and what I think needs to change. So one of the things that I believe should happen, are all schools reporting on the gender pay equity gap? Some of you are, yeah. So I think at the same time we report on gender pay equity, we should be reporting on age. Because if a lot of organisations have too many old people or too many young people, this creates other problems. But we need to know what the age range is of the employees. And so I wrote this all up and I put it in this, you know, beautiful document, and you can see it got 2,500 impressions, and that's the link. And, you know, this was a productive use of the platform to get some survey results. I've also seen academics use it to write articles that appear on The Conversation. So, you know, it can be used for all sorts of purposes. So there's lots of different types of content. If your school page has more than 150 followers, you can create a LinkedIn newsletter. So let's say you've got a quarterly email newsletter that goes out from your school. You can republish the same content on LinkedIn under the school page, and from then on, anyone who follows the school page will be invited to subscribe. So that means once a quarter, they're going to be reminded that your school exists. It doesn't cost you a thing. And you don't annoy them in their email inbox. And I think that's just an amazing feature. And you can repurpose the exact content you put out in your quarterly newsletter. So there's lots of different things that you can do, but your goal is to be scroll stopping. So you can see I've got a photo. Most people will look at a photo. Who is that? You know, we're biologically programmed. When you walked into this room, did you count the number of chairs? Or did you look for a face? You know, that's how we're programmed, to look for faces everywhere. And I was very disappointed when I went over there, I did not see a quokka. Outraged. Because I thought, I don't have time to go to Rottnest, and yet I'm still not going to see a quokka while I'm here. So anyway, so now we're going to talk a little bit about building your institutional brand and remembering that a lot of people considering your educational institution will look at you on social media, including on LinkedIn. Back in the early days, you could even say, I'm interested in this school, and it would give you a choice to market. That thing's long gone, but these are some of the things that we can do to promote your educational brand. So I pitched Peter Allen from Guildford, because I thought this looked pretty good. So Georgia, you're Guildford, aren't you?
Yeah,
no,
a few of us from Guildford.
A few from Guildford. Yeah, it was pretty good. Because I like the fact he put in some extra words in his headline, but there's 2.5 lines worth, so he could definitely put more in. And I'm still looking at his jacket instead of his face. I'd probably suggest he was sort of zooming in and just doing the head and shoulders. But I love the nice banner of the school in the background there. That looks terrific. And we've got that his employer is Guildford Grammar on the right there. And it's in Perth, and he's got over 500 connections. It's actually a pretty good principal profile, so I thought I'm definitely going to pop that up. But anything that you would do on your own profile, obviously you try and make sure that the principal is going to do on theirs, and they've got that greater reach. So there's a little webinar I've run with the slides that if you click on that link, you can pass that on to your principal and they can watch it and work out how to update it. Peter has not changed his LinkedIn URL though, so I would definitely recommend that he change that on your page, on the your profile on the top right. If you change your URL just to your name. Now, I looked at all of the schools that are on the Educate Plus WA committee, and you've all got school pages. So congratulations, well done. But some schools only have a company page on LinkedIn. This is a problem. Because what it means is that only the employees can say they work there, and none of the students can say they studied there. So if you've got a company page for your educational institution and not a school page, you can go to this link and you say over here, convert company page into a school page. And then that way they can say that they've studied there. And Educate Plus is also a school. So any training you do through Educate Plus, you can list that in your education section because it's a school page. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Now, on the school page itself, you've got this About section, and there's all these areas to fill in, including workplace and commitments. And most company pages or school pages I look at have not filled this in. So about every 6 months, you should log into your social media profiles and make sure all the boxes are ticked and all the logos are in and the taglines are the same about every 6 months. So please go in there and make sure you've filled in all the details. And then I coached Knox Grammar School in Sydney some years ago, and they've been such good students. I've never heard from them ever again, but I love their content on LinkedIn. And I've shown it to you here because at the beginning of each post, they put a topic. Because a lot of schools I've noticed only mention jobs on their school page. And there's so many more things that you can talk about on your school page. So if you want some ideas, if you've only been posting jobs stuff, please consider looking at Knox. And you can see here, 49 people have reacted to that. That's really good. If you get more than 3 engagements on a school page, you are doing really well. So, that's gone well. And you can see its photos, and we're trying to work out what his eyes look like under that beanie, so it stops the scrolling again. So that's going to make sure. I do recommend you put the school hashtag in. So if people want to see your other content, they can just press the hashtag. It's not going to make it go further, but it is going to help the user experience. And there's a school that has the hashtag called #behind the blackboard, and it actually profiles some of the staff of the school, and it's a really interesting series of videos, so you might want to consider that one. And if you have an event that was supported by sponsors or philanthropy, the public philanthropists, whatever, make sure you @mention them so they can be notified about that. Because I find sometimes schools are reluctant to @mention, and if you @mention them, it will send them a notification, and if they engage with it, the post will go further and wider. You're all starting to look a little bit like deers in headlights, so yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? But I had this huge remit, and I thought I've got to fulfill it. So, as I said, this is kind of the introduction, and you've got the roadmap, all the instructions are in the slides. Now, if you are going to do anything with your students and you want to make sure that they are part of your school, I encourage you in year 11 to invite them to create a LinkedIn profile and list that they're studying at your school. And your goal is to get 80% of students listing your school before they leave the school. And as I was explaining to Hayden, somebody else, if you're a university, get them to sign up on day 1 of arriving at the university, because, they could leave at any time. And my daughter, who's given me her permission to mention her story, she started at Monash University and did 3 subjects and absolutely hated it. So she went to La Trobe and did a degree from woe to go at La Trobe. And she didn't want to mention the 3 subjects she'd done at Monash because it looked like, she says, it looks like I dropped out. No, she completed 3 subjects. So we added that to her LinkedIn profile, subjects completed, and those ones, and then we added the full La Trobe one in there. And now she's alumni for 2 universities. And we know that obviously if you're alumni and the school knows about you, they can then hit you up for postgrad, masters, PhD, all those other things, and invite you to do those things at some later point. So you want as many alumni as you can. So trying to get 80% choosing your school is going to be good. Now, this was interesting because this is a school I've done multiple LinkedIn workshops for, Our Lady of Sion in Box Hill in Melbourne. And you can see here it's not even the end of the year and they've already got 40 alumni graduated in 2025. So that means they've already added it to their LinkedIn profile, which is kind of cool. So, that's that one. Now, I said before groups are a waste of time, but the Toorak College, which is in Mount Martha, I know that sounds very weird because I'm sure most of you have heard Toorak is some fancy suburb in Melbourne. Anyway, they set up this network and Educate Plus gave them an award because it was so successful at helping alumni get amazing opportunities. And it is, or alumni because it's girls, you can only be in there if you're an alumni. You cannot be in there if you're a staff member. And it's worked, but it's required a lot of work. So let me save you all a lot of time. Don't worry about creating a LinkedIn group. And if you do, speak to them first before you go ahead. And you do not need to upgrade your school page and pay for this advertising because I've not seen any benefits from any of it. But I do encourage you, if you've got some extra funds, pay for some volunteers to get things moving for you. Make sure you've got at least 3 administrators on the school page as well. In case someone's away, someone's on holidays, you've still got to have someone accessing the page. And then also, you've got to check the inbox and the activity because it doesn't come up in your personal notifications. So, if you are an admin, make sure you check those. And then, of course, you can invite your connections to follow the school page if you're an admin. So you might say, we're going to have 30 admins at our school, so we can invite more people to follow the school page. Now, how much time have I got left? Because you're already standing and waiting. Let's stop there. What I've done after this is I've said these are the things you can do for all of those roles. So in admissions, this is what I recommend: alumni and community engagement, fundraising, marketing and comms. If any of you've got any questions about any of these, just shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer quick questions. And that's all the things. I'd love to hear what's been most helpful. Hopefully you've got a survey, and I hope you're not going to give me that to put on the plane.
Well,
it could be very embarrassing.
We can do a deal.
Well, if anybody's got questions, please come up and ask me. More than happy to help. Thank you.
So on behalf of everyone, thank you so much for taking the time. I think the thing I'm going to take away, which is probably not what you wanted me to take away, because I'm going to be above average of retirement age, I think. So thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it, and we hope to catch up with you. I'm sure you'll get a lot of questions afterwards. So thank you very much.
Thank you.